Welcome back to the Weekly News Roundup. This is your standard lineup. We have privacy, security, business, and silly news. And I got to say, this world is getting crazy. I mean, like, when the sillyville spills over into the mainline media and you just stare at it and you're like, and I had so many articles, I had to throw a few of them out, like infrastructure's being attacked. I threw out the one in UK, but I kept the one in Texas. I mean, talk about crazy stuff going on in the world. But, of course, you can catch the show live Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or you can just kind of watch these edited ones as well. And with that, let's go ahead and dive right on in. Our first article is Ring Camera. They agree to pay $5.6 million after cameras were used to spy on customers. Yes, isn't this exciting? So, of course, the Ring camera is all these secure things. Well, for quite a long time, now some of this was going back to before Amazon owned it, where every single employee of the company had access to every single camera feed. Now, that changed a little bit, but there were still too many people, including third-party contractors in third-world countries, that had access to all the camera feeds for doing data training. And so if you happen to have a camera in a bedroom or whatever else, you might actually have some foreign person watching you sleep. Isn't that a comforting thought? And I actually know people who put these things in, like, their children's bedrooms. It's like, dude, no. Ugh. But this had to do with contractors and employees having access. In fact, one Ring employee had a personal file of a whole bunch of Ring cameras belonging to female Ring customers. And some of them were in places like bedrooms and bathrooms. Like, who puts a Ring camera in their bathroom? We have serious mental problems in our society if you put an internet-connected camera in your bathroom. Like, what? This is a level of stupid I just don't know how to deal with. But anyway, after a lot of back and forth, they had 117,000 PayPal payments. So if we're doing 5.6 million divided by 170, is that $10-ish? I don't know. I didn't do that math right off the top of my head. So basically you're getting PayPal credits. So they're going to be paying through PayPal for this. And there will be a page. Now, of course, anytime something like this comes out, beware of the scammers that are coming out to capitalize on this. But they said they will have a web page for it, ftc.gov/refunds, or you can call them. And the particular payment processor utilizing involved in this is Rust Consulting. So if anybody else involved in this reaches out to you, that's not legitimate. That would be a scam. Rust Consulting. And you can find their information on the FTC's website. So if you're going to be getting money back. So that is what Ring Camera's up to. So yeah, don't put internet connected cameras laying around because nefarious people will do nefarious things. And Ars Technica, once again, is not loading style sheets for me on the first load. All right. So Google, once again, has tried to kill third-party cookies, and it delays them a third time. This one actually didn't have anything to do with Google, though. This had to do with a UK regulator because, of course, the issue with cookies is that cookies are what's used to track people around the internet. This is why if you block third-party cookies particularly, you do a lot better job of protecting yourself from a lot of, we'll say, more chronic data collection on the internet than you would otherwise. So Google's plan is to stop using cookies, but UK regulators are saying, yeah, but this kind of gives Google an unfair competition in the ad space, which it does. Because, of course, Google always wants to be signed into Chrome, and this allows them to store all of that type of browsing history in a more comprehensive database that you may or may not really know about. And they can say you can delete your browse history, but I'm not completely sure I agree with them. Of course, on Microsoft, Edge is trying to do the same thing. In fact, as we did the video setting up a Windows computer to explain the various reasons I'm not interested in using Windows, you see that when you just set up Edge, it wants you to log into your Microsoft account and your Google account so that both of them through Edge can track everything that you are doing. That is a partnership between Microsoft and Google to collect as much data as possible. and that makes sure that Microsoft and Google both have the information it needs on its ad networks, but other third-party ad providers cannot gain such useful information. And so because of this, the UK regulators are stepping in and saying, yeah, you can't really do that right now. So they're doing a lot of things. Ultimately, though, Google is planning on shutting down those cookies. Now, Chrome, though, is the only browser that still has this as the permanent option, as Firefox and other web browsers have eliminated these a while back. So I'm not sure why Chrome is being called out for this specifically, other than the fact that Google controls both the web browser and the advertising network behind the web browser, and I think that is what raises the most concerns for the UK. And moving on to our last article in privacy today, health insurance giant Kaiser to notify millions after a data breach after sharing patients' data with advertisers. I think I actually have this in our security as well. So if I do, I will drop this article over there. I think I misread something. Or no, I think that this one is the advertiser one and the other one is actually a hacker. So yeah, that's it. So not only are hackers stealing your data from all these medical companies, but the medical companies themselves are leaking the data by using tracking pixels. Now, if you didn't catch our video on TikTok yesterday, this is the thing I was talking about in more detail, is these tracking pixels, where Facebook and Google have the big tracking pixels, Google through Google Analytics, Facebook through their Facebook tracking pixel. TikTok also has one of these, and these allow you to, even if you're not using those services, you say, well, I'm not using Facebook, I'm not using TikTok. It doesn't matter. If you have not actively blocked these tracking pixels, they can still track you across the internet whether or not you have an account. So Facebook was known decades ago, or a decade ago, for creating what they called shadow profiles. These were profiles for people that were not logged in, that they were collecting a lot of data, creating a profile on them, and then what ended up happening is they were basically trying to figure out who these people were and conglomerating them together and creating profiles on people that they didn't yet have the full account. But once you verified who your account was, then they put all of that data into your account. TikTok is doing the same thing, but what happened is all these companies, let's go off onto another rabbit trail. If you didn't catch Louis Rossman's video this week on how companies become the villain, that is an excellent article on this, that these guys aren't being malicious in doing this. They're just being ignorant and just, okay, whatever. So one of my clients, we do Facebook, and there was a time we were running Google ads. Right now we're just doing some Facebook stuff, but we have we brought in somebody else and they wanted to add the Facebook tracking pixel. And I pushed back against it a little bit and said, yeah, I would not recommend doing this. Our website ended up saying, okay, we need to do it. Fine, whatever. I'll let you do it. I gave you my warning, but okay. You're paying the bills. So there you go. So the problem here is that once we set that up, now anytime somebody hits our website, Facebook knows about it unless you're blocking it. The problem is a lot of these companies behind these sites, they don't know the level of what these things are doing. They don't understand the level of danger involved here. And so they're like, oh, well, we just need to add it. Well, the web developer said we need to add it. Or the web developer didn't even talk to them. They just said, well, everyone needs to add these tracking pixels. Let's just add these tracking pixels. Or more likely than not, the company developing this is also their marketing company, and their marketing company gets useful data from that to know how effective they're doing, because they don't want to do something like install open web analytics or some other thing that they control the analytics, because it's just so much more convenient doing that. And that's the point Louis Rossman was getting at. They're not doing this to be evil jerks. They're doing this because it's the path of least resistance. It just leads to possible downstream evil consequences. So in this, Kaiser had some login pages on the back end that had these tracking pixels, and that login information, basically this is what technically is the dark web, okay? Not the deep web like the onion sites and Tor, the dark web, which is the stuff that's generally not indexed because it requires a login. So you get logged into the site, okay? And once you're in there, now all of your account details are there. Your health information is there. You might have uploaded your driver's license to verify your identity. You might have put in a credit card information. You might have questions about your health medical diagnosis. You might have information about your insurance companies. The problem is these tracking pixels have copies of everything on these pages. They're comprehensive JavaScript libraries that take screenshots. They take key logging. They do all this kind of stuff. And so inadvertently, by these companies having these tracking pixels, they are inadvertently sharing your health information with advertising companies, which is a violation of HIPAA. And because of this, the government is starting to crack down on these health companies or health tangential companies utilizing the Facebook and the Meta and the Google and the TikTok tracking pixels, because they have ruled that those tracking pixels on sensitive areas on the website is akin to violating HIPAA. But they don't realize this, and so they are unknowingly sending all of your health information and all of your account information to advertisers who now have a whole lot more information about you than they want. And this is why we need to completely abolish the data sharing principles in our government. There needs to be a one place to say, I want nothing to do with any of these ad companies, and if any ad company has any of my information on it at any point in time, they need to pay me an ungodly sum of money to get them to stop doing bad behaviors, to get them to comply. Because they don't have a risk of getting themselves shut down by not following the regulations. Well, then that's what it's going to take. But if you say, well, we're going to fine you $5 for violating this, but they've made $500 million, you ain't going to solve the problem. So that's kind of what's going on over here. But don't worry, it's going to get better. But before we get there, we have one other article in our security news. Of course, I lost my mouse. I couldn't get my transition over there quite as quickly. This is a brilliant looking one. You know what? Let's just go ahead and move things around here. We're just going to go ahead and hit the healthcare one first. So United Health now confirms not only did the one company give up all the data with tracking pixels, now another one is breached. So whether it's the hackers or whether it's the friendly fire of the government telecom companies, you know, they're getting all of our data. So these guys here, United Health has a major cyber attack incident. Hackers stole a substantial amount of patient data. And what they're doing here is they got in there, they installed some ransomware, they grabbed copies of files, and then they knocked off a number of different services affecting pharmacies and other adjacent, medical adjacent businesses in the United States. So they said that some of the data they're pretty sure has been released. Some screenshots proving the hackers had the information was sent out to them. And so here's another fun fact. We are reliant too much on servers, and we're not willing to pay people to keep these servers as secure as they could be. Security, by and large, for business is an expense they don't want to pay. They want to do the minimum, and they don't think about the negative consequences of this until sometime later. Well, it's not important until the hack happens, and then all of a sudden, their lack of preparation becomes everybody's problem. This is why in my hosting company, I have a backup and restore service that once a month, I'll take a snapshot of your entire server. I'll push all security updates, and just part of that plan, if you happen to have an incident, highest priority, no extra cost, we roll that thing back. Boom. We just put it back to how it was at the last known good backup that I have on file. Solves the problem. The problem is many people don't realize that they need to do such a thing. And so then they come back, well, we were hacked and blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, it's probably going to take you like $500 now. You want me to get to it now, or you want to just sit there with hacked files for a while? So companies need to start taking security more seriously. And maybe here's the thought. Maybe we don't need to put absolutely everything in the world onto the internet and internet connected systems. I think any of these computer systems that have this type of stuff, they need to be air-gapped. They just need to be air-gapped because these people are not competent enough to keep things secure. Of course, because new things like Coral Raiders coming out and devising new fun ways of distributing its malware. Now it's using CDN cache. Isn't that great? So we talked again yesterday on the TikTok video about how the CDN, the cloud distribution networks work. I think that's what it stands for. Anyway, the CDN networks, basically you have a website hosted somewhere, and then you're going to work with a service. The most popular one is Cloudflare. That is not the one impacted in this particular site. But just Cloudflare because it's the one you will have probably have heard about it. So you have an account with Cloudflare. Cloudflare goes to your server, makes a copy of your server, and then deploys that to servers all across the world. And then when somebody accesses your website, rather than accessing it on your main hosting account, they instead host it on the nearest server to them. And in order to make all this work, you need to cache a lot of these pages, which also is what makes a CDN much quicker to load than loading through, just a raw server that is running the backend PHP execution every single time you push the page load. This is why page caching is good. It executes the code one time, keeps a raw HTML file in place, and so you can load the page faster without having to execute PHP on the server or whatever type of other application you are running. So what they're doing is they have stored malware inside of the cache of this CDN network, and I've never heard of it. It's like Bunny something. I've never heard of this company. I can't find it in here. I think the other article had the name a little bit more prominently. But what this one is Coral Raider is one of the ones that is used to capture payment credentials and passwords and things like this. And so what they're going to do is they're going to get a malicious Windows file to you. It might be a malvertising, and they don't even know in this article. They don't even know. They don't know if it's phishing or if it's malvertising or some other means, but you're clicking a Windows LNK file, which is going to execute the code. The code, in order to get around Windows Defender, first, it's going to execute the code. It goes into a PowerShell command behind the scenes and contacts the CDN to grab the information that it wants. Meanwhile, executing the application, which is going to pass a verification through the Windows Defender. Then it's going to come over here with the PowerShell. And it's going to it's going to execute an exclusion list in Windows Defender. Meanwhile, it's going to come over here and run the code. And when it runs the code, it's going to breach different applications. Now, the good thing for our channel, this is a Windows thing. Although there might be Linux versions just floating around, it's targeting a whole variety of web browsers, applications, even including Authy, Google Authenticator, KeePass, and pretty much every cryptocurrency wallet known to man. So it's trying to get into there, gain information, and then send that information back. But it uses the CDN to get around the Windows Defender list. That's exciting. And on to our last article in security news. The U.S. government says security flaw in the Chirp Systems app lets anyone remotely control the smart home locks. So Chirp is one of the bigger smart home locks. Yes, there are people out there who are dumb enough to put an internet-connected lock on their house. I mean, come on, man. I need to check the status of my lock with my smartphone. Why don't you just check the status of your lock before you leave? Nothing wrong with the good old-fashioned OCD where you check your lock 3 times before you leave your house, okay? No problem with that. But the big problem here is that the person who found this security vulnerability reached out to Chirp, gave them all the information, and Chirp literally ignored them for 2 years. They have known about this vulnerability since 2021. It is listed as a 9.1 out of 10 on the secure vulnerability because it allows any person to unlock your house from the internet. And Chirp's like, there's no problem here. What is Chirp's big problem? Well, they happen to have some basic hard-coded administrative credentials inside their phone app, which means anybody that knows where your Chirp lock is can get in and unlock your lock for you because the admin credentials are hardwired in and you can't change them. So it finally took the CISA to get out and push out the awareness just to alert everybody. The big problem with Chirp, according to the article here, is that Chirp is one of those companies that has been working with all these big corporate landlorders, which I think also should be banned. I just don't think that we need to have the big corporations involved in renting properties out to people. They don't ever do a good job of it. But all these rental companies are now trying to force these types of smart locks because because it's so convenient. You know, our maintenance crews need to get in here, you know, and so they're putting all these smart connected locks. Now, here's a fun fact. You're a renter. You're forced to have this thing you don't want to have, and they force you to have renter's insurance. Let me give you a piece of legal advice, and I'm not a lawyer. This is just a piece of thought. Maybe bounce it off a lawyer. If your rental company forces you to have this, you should take this advisory from the government. Don't take the article from TechCrunch. Go on to their website, get the actual government thing. Write up a letter and tell your landlord you have a chirp device. Attached is a security bulletin from the United States government saying this is not secure. You are forcing me to have renter's insurance. I am hereby declaring that if this chirp device is not removed in a timely manner, if anybody breaches my house through this vulnerability, you, not me or my renter's insurance company, are going to be liable for everything. Send that to them, return receipt certified, and put the condition, if you cannot meet this, it could possibly be seen as a way to break your lease. Because we're talking about a serious, that they're forcing this on you is going to prevent you from having a safe, habitable home. It bears legal questions. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know 100% sure if that would work, but it would definitely be something I would be doing to put it all in written record that you now know there is a security bulletin on the lock you're forcing me to have. I am not liable for your lock breaking down. That's the crazy stuff about this stuff. I mean, this is nuts. So don't use the smart tech that's connected to the internet. I mean, really, that's ultimately our take-home message. Well, if you want to help support the channel, we do use affiliates. Today we're highlighting Pro Writing Aid. You can use my affiliate code TLM.li/PWA. And you can get 20% off the premium or the premium pro editions on either the yearly or the lifetime. You don't get the discount on the monthly, but that will still help support the channel. But you can use this. You will get a 20% off, and I will get a affiliate commission out of that. This is what I use when I'm doing my short stories. This is what I use for my final pass edits, just to look everything over one last time with another set of eyes. Definitely an excellent product, and they have always been security minded or privacy minded from the front. They have never stored or used your information for any of its training or anything else. So have a look at Pro Writing Aid if you are writing and you are interested in a service like this. TLM.li/PWA. And with that, let's move on over to business news next. First up in business news, Acer wants to show Apple how environmentalism is done with a pledge to collect an equivalent of 2.5 million plastic bottles with Plastic Bank partnership. I'd be happy if people just made repairable computers. However, I say that, it turns out Acer is one of the most repairable brands. I know Dell is super repairable. That's why I buy Dells if I need to buy a branded computer. Because like even I suspect that my charging port on my one laptop might be going bad again. I was on the Amazon the other day, cost me $5, ordered another one. I have it over here. So if I'm, in the middle of the Arizona desert and I can't get the computer to charge, I can swap out the charging port. That's how easy it is with Dell. And it'll take me like 5 or 10 minutes to swap out. Acer apparently is doing some good stuff as well. But this is mostly just a publicity stunt. They want to collect millions of plastic bottles with Plastic Bank, which is also going to increase jobs and provide some benefits and things like that. Now, all of this, I think, is because they're trying to promote this new green PC they have. So the Aspire Vero 16, rethink, reimagine, revolutionize. So this is supposed to be a computer made from 60% recycled plastic, and is supposed to be a much more environmentally friendly computer. However, they went full-fledged weirdo mode, and the R and the E keys are actually backwards on the keyboard. And I gotta say, this would probably drive me crazy, and probably anybody else who might have a slight tinge of OCD, this might actually drive them crazy as well. Not only that, but I believe they're actually a different color as well. Trying to see if we can get a good overhead view of the computer. But they're basically trying to push this idea of a computer that is more user-friendly and things like that. In fact, if I go over here to the shop, I think I can find a copy of this guy here. What is this guy? This is the Aero Aspire 16. It's also not super expensive either, which is another good point of it. So I don't know. $749. And this is Intel Core Ultra 5. This is, I think this is that new branding they're having on their core. So what Ultra 5, is that equivalent to an old i5 or is that an i7? I have no idea. Since I'm not a hardware dude, I don't stay as up to date on that kind of stuff. So here is that. So look at this. The keys are, the R and the E are backwards and a different color. I don't know, man. Not saying I wouldn't take one of those computers if you offered it to me, but I'm not sure I would intentionally go for this one over another option. I don't know. But they're trying to do that. Of course, Apple is trying to play the "we're green" thing, despite you can't repair anything. And they're all like, you know, we are going to aggressively, throw everything through the grinder so it can't possibly be repaired in the future. So that's what Acer is up to. And Amazon, they are launching a new grocery delivery subscription in the U.S. They were testing this in Denver, Sacramento, and Columbus, Ohio. And the subscription is $9.99 a month for Amazon Prime users and $4.99 a month if you are on EBT. So that's actually a decent deal. I'm kind of looking for the flaws here, and this is actually a pretty good program for a person who wants or needs grocery delivery. Not super expensive. I wouldn't say it's a lot, and if you time things right, it might actually be a convenience for you. So they are selling from Amazon Fresh, Whole Foods Market, or other retailers, Cardius, Save Mart, Bartell Drugs, Rite Aid, and Pet Food Express, and Mission Wine and Spirit. Okay, I guess if you need your liquor in a delivery service, there you have it. So they have a 30-day free trial before you have to pay, and the subscription offers 1-hour delivery windows without any extra fee, unlimited 30-minute pickup for any size order, and priority access for recurring reservations for weekly deliveries as well. So, you know, it's cheaper than the Walmart's option. There's Target also has options as well. So it is pretty cheap. Of course, you would need to have Amazon Prime for this. So I'm not sure. I'm obviously not the customer. It's like an add-on to that. So you're already paying for Amazon Prime. Now you want to pay for this too? Not really. So that being said, I'm not quite sure that... Not quite sure that it's for me, but it's not a bad delivery system. So Amazon's doing this instead of doing their just walk in and walk out with stuff, because apparently they didn't want to pay those Indian spy guys more money. Yeah, all those Amazon stores, they were all just, people were just watching you from the other side of the world and tallying up your order. All right, let's move to your favorite place and mine, Sillyville. And we got some exciting stuff going on in Sillyville today, guys. First up, for $9,500, you can buy a flamethrowing robot dog. I'm going to mute that now, so we'll get a copyright claim on that for the Terminator music. So you might say, what's the purpose of this? I mean, I can think of a couple. I mean, obviously, I think this one also has music. We're going to turn that one down. So you basically fill it up with gasoline, and then it can spew flames up to 30 feet. So here's your robot dog. Oh boy, we got lasers. We got lasers. Come on, I want to see fire. There you go. So this would be very useful for doing things like controlled burns, or even in managing wildfires. Oftentimes they'll get ahead of the wildfire and they'll do a controlled burn to slow down a wildfire. This would be a good and safe implementation of doing that, so that's kind of neat. The other thing, I'd be really interested to see these deployed across the southern border. I mean, for 95 billion, we could have gotten a whole number of these guys. Nice round number, right? 9,500, 95 billion. We could have gotten 1 million of these, put them on there rather than protecting other people's borders and protect ours instead. But I don't know. So anyway, robotic dogs with 30-foot flamethrowers. They are a thing now, guys. So watch out for that cyber revolution. If AI gets inside of these guys, just beware of any robot dogs. Stay outside of the 30-foot range. Social distance from robo-dogs. And of course, we know we had to fund the border over in other part of the country because of how bad them Russians are. And them Russians are over there attacking even small towns in Texas because Russian hackers flooded a small town in Texas with its own water supply. Yes, they have gotten into the infrastructure, and what they did is they manipulated all of the individual tools in order to crank on the water levels and forced water taps to go all over the place. Basically resetting control overflow tanks that caused flooding. I thought I had seen pictures of this at some point in time. I don't know. Let's see if the CNN article had pictures of it. I saw pictures of it somewhere. I just don't remember where I saw the pictures. No, they didn't have pictures there either. Russians got in. They, let's see, there's CNN. We'll see if we can't find these pictures. Couldn't find them. Oh, well. So anyway, hackers got in and did that. So just be aware that the hackers will get in. I did leave out the other infrastructure attack was over in a city in England, in the UK, where the hackers manipulated the street lights and prevented them from turning off. So there you have it over there in England because of the hackers. They're burning more fuels than they should be. This is great. The spam came from inside the house. The smart TV over here. So this is a, let's see what smart TV this was. This is the Hisense TV. So if you have a Hisense TV, be aware of this. The Hisense TV, what it was doing is like every 30 minutes, it was creating a new instance of itself on the local network. Well, Windows sees this and says, hey, a new device to connect to. So it attempts to connect to the new device on the network. And it was creating this infinite loop of new devices being created, and Windows doing this, and every time Windows would do this, it would add an extra registry key, and eventually it just overwhelmed the system so that several portions of the site or of the computer just started crashing. The taskbar was crashing, applications were crashing, everything was crashing. So this person did some experimentation and found out that every single time that this TV, so here's what the explanation was. In Microsoft's forum, the issue is that Hisense TV is generating random UUIDs for UPnP network discovery every few minutes. Windows seemingly does not know why any device would routinely do this, so it sees and adds the alternate Hisense devices to the device-associated network. And this service is being stuffed full of attention-grabbing devices that hangs the Task Manager, Bluetooth, in the Settings app, File Explorer, and more. The fix is to go into the registry and delete hundreds of keys from the registry. He notices Hisense TV flooding the Windows network device discovery systems before, but he didn't think Windows would go for a toss due to all of this. So the TV is manipulating your Windows computer to mess it all up. So that's exciting. And on to our final story in Sillyville. This is excellent. This guy wore a stop sign shirt to prank self-driving cars.
A Waymo stop for a stop sign on the sidewalk.
Okay, there's possibly some music in there. So this guy, he's wearing a stop sign on his shirt, and he's getting the Waymo cars to stop for him. Testing at night. Oh, he missed him at night. So that's kind of frightening. This car doesn't apparently see it. And here's another one at night. Oh, the car stops for him at night. So this guy's just wearing a big old stop sign on his T-shirt and causing the self-driving cars to stop. And the thing has no earthly idea what it's doing. It's just holding. Had a construction sign? Follow for more Phoenix magic. There you go. So, yeah, apparently you can spoof out your self-driving cars by wearing a T-shirt with stop signs. Guys, we need to do this. we need to get t-shirts. We need to go around, particularly if you're in these cities that have these self-driving cars. Everyone needs to be walking around with stop signs. Let's see what kind of havoc we can wreak on the world. Oh boy, that's exciting. Well, if you want to help support the channel, we do have supporter networks. Today we are highlighting a couple. patreon.com/TOMM. You can jump onto either of these networks. You can join in on the Thursday shows, and you can also get the short stories that we are releasing once a month. So we did just release our last short story. Of course, over here on Locals, if you log in, I don't have actually this page logged into Locals, but if you have a look over at Locals, switchedtolinux.locals.com for a free account on Locals, you can read the first part of that story and decide if it's worth buying the rest. So you can jump on over there, Patreon, Locals. We also have, of course, Subscribestar as well. With that, thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.